Let's speak plainly. Anyone who does not put in the effort to acquire knowledge and improve intellectually has no right to publicly express opinions on anything. Neither their religious faith, moral virtues, if they have any, nor the positions they may hold, or even the prestige they might enjoy in certain circles, grant them that right. Public discourse is not just an exchange of personal opinions or a contest of self-image. It is, above all, an exchange of valuable cultural knowledge that benefits the entire human community, rooted in the totality of our historical heritage, not just in a specific moment, place. Each person's right to public attention is directly proportional to their effort to engage with this heritage, to speak in its name, and to add something meaningful to it through the words they share with the audience. Everything else, no matter how well-intentioned it may seem, is nothing but vain presumption and deceit. All of Brazil's woes stem from ignorance of these principles. Politicians, businessmen, judges, generals, and clergy who scorn knowledge and usurp its prestige are to blame for everything wrong happening in this country. If these charlatans are not expelled from public life, these issues will continue to worsen, regardless of whether the workers' political party is in power, whether there's an impeachment, military intervention, Smartmatic, Mensalão, or Petrolão. A disregard for knowledge and a love for the fame it unjustly brings through the use of clichés and imitations are the original sins of the talking class in Brazil. Only a cultured person can judge matters on the scale of humanity, history, and civilization. The rest follow the trends of the moment, trends created by uneducated journalists and illiterate professors, destined to crumble at the first change in the direction of the wind. Personal culture is the first and indispensable condition for objective judgment. Lack of culture traps souls in the subjectivity of their group, most extreme form of mental provincialism. Let me give you some examples of national disasters directly caused by the ignorance of those involved. Only incredibly uncultured people could have difficulty understanding that a presidential election with secret ballot counting, with no transparency, is invalid in itself, regardless of whether there was specific fraud or not. The number of rogue donkeys and five-star fools who, even while opposing the government, think that Mrs. Dilma Rousseff was democratically elected in legitimate elections, premise so self-evident to them that it does not even need to be discussed, is enough to show that the political and economic calamity in which the country finds itself was preceded by an indescribable, abject, and unacceptable intellectual calamity in every way. In the 1990s, when the military accepted and even requested the creation of the Ministry of Defense, they argued that this was how it was done in great democracy, and that only banana republics had military ministry. I responded several times that this reasoning was based on a desire to make a good impression, not on a serious examination of the local situation, where the creation of this cursed institution would only serve to increase the power of the communists. Brazil has paid dearly 1,000 times over for its habit of imitating foreign niceties, instead of doing what the objective situation demands. This case was just one more in a long series. Even now, when my prediction has come true in the most obvious and blatant way, no honorable military figure has yet come forward to confess their inability to relate the administrative structure of the state to substantive political disputes. They keep insisting that the idea was good, but unfortunately spoiled by the rise of communists to power, as if one had nothing to do with the other, as if it were all a fortuitous sum of coincidences, as if the demolition of military prestige were not a constant and fundamental item in the leftist political agenda in the country. And as if, already in the FHC government, the creation of the ministry was not conceived as a perfectly legal-looking remedy to break the back of the military. One of the most characteristic traits of Brazilian ignorance, already noted by writers and political scientists since the foundation of the Republic at least, is the mechanical subservience to foreign models copied without any criterion. In a culturally stunted society, the most inevitable thing is that all the opinion currents that appear in public discussion are just copies or reflections of models imposed from outside by lobbies and pressure groups with their own global objectives, who care nothing about the well-being of our people. Every opinion maker here is a ventriloquist's dummy, repeating slogans and cliches that do not address the real problems of the country, and that ultimately only serve to increase the already overwhelming mental confusion. How is it possible that in a country where 50% of university students are recognized functional illiterates and high school students consistently place last in international tests, the academic curriculum of a professor is still accepted as unquestionable proof of competence? Shouldn't it be the opposite? Shouldn't it be an almost infallible indication that, with a few exceptions, the holder of such a resume is most likely, statistically speaking, just an incompetent person protected by corporate interests? Has "you shall know them by their fruits" been revoked? Has the mafia-like interprotection of semi-literate careerists, united by group and party ambitions, become the criterion of intellectual qualification? Isn't it a sign, not just of mere ignorance, but of positive mental debility, that the same apologists for the university establishment were the first to point out as an indelible merit of candidate Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, in 2 elections, his total lack of any formal or informal studies? Didn't the prodigious ignorance of the character become praised as a sign of some infused wisdom? Every person who, when faced with the demand for knowledge, praises the evangelical virtues of the simple is a charlatan. Jesus promised the simple a place in paradise, not a platform or a chair on earth.